It's 2025 season preview time for the Geelong Cats. Stick around and enjoy. Welcome on in, everybody, to the All Aussie Rules YouTube channel. Today we're looking at the Geelong Cats and a 2025 season preview for the Cats. Big season ahead for the AFL and for Geelong, so we're going to be going through everything there is to know about their season coming up. We're going to look at their last season. We'll look at their last few seasons, how they're travelling in that regard. We're going to have a look at their depth chart. We're going to have a look at their best 23 or best 22 heading into the season, and just a quick look at their schedule to round out this video. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We've been going through all the clubs for season previews in alphabetical order. This is like now number... what are we? This must be 7 out of 18. So we're continuing on. There's going to be 18 done before the season starts. So check them all out. Make sure you like. And as I said, subscribe to the channel. Plenty of content coming your way. Also, 2 podcast episodes every week going live on the channel. So go check them out as well. Without any further ado, though, you're here for Geelong Cats. So let's jump straight into it. Here there was. That makes a lot of sense. But 2024 season, this is what they did. Finished third on the ladder through the home and away season. Solid record, 15-8. Finished up after the finals, 4th on the ladder, being that Port Adelaide and themselves both got eliminated in a prelim final. So they sat 4th, having finished slightly below Port Adelaide in the home and away season. Interesting season. Obviously won the premiership a couple of years ago. Bad 23, but came back right from the start in 2024. They won their first 6 or 7 games of the season. Looked really good early season. They then had a little bit of a rough patch through like rounds 8 to 12 or so, where their season started to get away from them a little bit, but they arrested that bad momentum around the bye time and came home quite strong. Ended up obviously going 8-8 for the last 16 weeks or so, but did kind of do okay late after losing 4 or so in a row through the middle of the season. Finals footy came round. They absolutely dominated Port Adelaide in a qualifying final in Adelaide, which was a really big result. They won it by like 70 odd points in a fantastic performance, no doubt about it. It was one of the better finals performances from any team in 2024. So they got the week off and came back to a home prelim final against Brisbane Lions at the MCG in what was an absolute cracking game, no doubt about it. Both teams really gave it their all. Geelong looked like at times they were going to win it. Brisbane at other times looked like they were going to win it. A few minutes to go, Geelong were in front. Ollie Henry kicked a goal, put him in front. But Brisbane just kept coming. They kicked the last couple to win by 10 points and knocked Geelong out. And in the end, Brisbane went on to win the premiership. So that's a quick sum up of what happened in 2024 for the Cats. We'll have a look at their last 5 seasons now. We've just gone through 2024. Obviously a pretty successful season, but just fell short in the end. 2023 was a bit of a down year, in all honesty. 12th on the ladder, 10 wins, 12 losses and a draw. They weren't terrible, but they were just a little bit off the pace of the rest. 2022, they won the premiership. They finished minor premiers. They went all the way 18-4 during the season, and then smacked Sydney in the grand final in what was a great performance. 2021, they finished 3rd on the ladder during the regular season, 16-6, so pretty solid year that one as well. Didn't quite make it to the grand final, losing out in a prelim final that year as well. So 2 out of the last 4 years they have lost in the prelim. And then in 2020 they finished 4th on the ladder, another COVID year. They went 12-5 throughout the home and away season. They made it all the way through to a grand final against Richmond up at the Gabba, and looked like they were right in it for the first 2 and a bit quarters, and then Richmond absolutely blew them away in that last quarter and a half, 2 quarters or so, with a fantastic performance from the Tigs, and they finished runners-up. So they've kind of had a mixed result over 5 years. Obviously winning it all in 2022, a second place finish in 2020, couple fourth places, losing out in prelims. So they've made prelims 4 of the 5 years, winning 2 of those, losing 2 of those, and then the one bad year in 2023 where they didn't make finals. So overall, pretty successful 5-year period. Just that one real blemish, and then the rest have been top 4 quite consistently. So they've been up and about. I mean, they have been for years before that as well. Over the last 15 odd years, they've been the most consistently strong team, them and Sydney. Geelong have the overall better success, though, at turning that high-end success, consistency through home and away seasons into grand final / premiership success. Obviously, Sydney fall short many times over the last 10-15 years, whereas Geelong in that time have consistently won premierships, maybe a bit more than 15. About 17 years or so. They've won quite a few. They won 2007, 2009, 2011. They've now won 2022 as well, so they've got 4 premierships in that space, which is a really good return. Whereas Sydney in that time frame have only got the one, which was 2012, I think it was, when they beat Hawthorn. So jumping into the depth chart for Geelong heading into 2025. As we've done with every team, these are my rankings for last year. If you were in the top 10% of your position, you are blue, which is elite. If you're in the top 50% for your position, you are green. Everybody else that played last year is yellow. Red is players that haven't played. And then orange, which you'll see Bailey Smith in the midfielders category, is people that have played before but didn't play last season. We'll jump through these position by position, starting with the key defenders. This is going to be an interesting one because there's a lot of talk that Sam de Koning will be moving into a potential ruck role. I think a lot of the pre-season he's done quite a bit of ruck work. So if he goes into that position, it will certainly be a little bit of a change down back for the Cats. I think potentially could really work because their ruck position is a part of the game that they really haven't been able to knuckle down with a dominant ruck for the last 10 years. It hasn't always hurt them. It's kind of worked to their strategy a lot. But if Sam de Koning can take up that role, who knows, that could really be beneficial. And while we're talking about that, Mark Blixarves has been doing a bit of work down back through pre-season from what I hear. So there's the potential that they'll just do a straight swap. Blixarves is someone that can win the ball, use the ball pretty well. So potentially could be just a straight swap that really works for them. Last year, Jack Henry was really solid down back. I think he had a good year. He was not a world beater, wasn't exceptional, but certainly did his job. As we said, Sam de Koning was really good. His best games were when he played a few games in ruck. He did absolutely get smacked by his brother when they played Carlton in the ruck, but outside of that, his other couple games in the ruck were quite positive. Jake Kolodjasny was really good most of the year. Once again, not a world beater. Though Connor O'Sullivan is a young backman that potentially will start to see more game time over the next year or two. Lennox Hoffman, I don't think we'll see much of this year. Their general defenders is probably their strongest position, in all honesty, or it was last year. I'd expect it to stay kind of similar. However, Tom Stewart and Max Holmes both do rotate through that midfield as well, and potentially do play their best when they are going through that midfield, but both had outstanding seasons during their midfield time, but also during their defending time. Zach Guthrie had a really good year. Duncan was good. Humphreys had probably his best season. Mark O'Connor, Mullen, Buse, all capable of being like in best 22 calculations. Probably just a little bit off at the moment. Jumping into the key forward line, They have a different sort of forward line structure than most teams in that their best key forward, Jeremy Cameron, doesn't exactly play as a key forward, or doesn't play that traditional key forward role at least. He gets around the ground a lot more. He's very dangerous when the ball is on the ground. He gets up the ground. He can get 20 plus touches in a game. He can still kick your 6 plus goals a game. He's someone that is very hard to match up on because in the air, he's not great in the air, but you kind of need to put an undersized person on him to keep up with him around the ground and stop him from getting these 20 plus touches and 6 goals. But you do that, and all of a sudden he will start beating you in the one-on-one marking contest. So he's a hard matchup. Ollie Henry, I think, his 2023 wasn't fantastic, but he showed improvements 2024, and certainly late in the year he was really good in the prelim final. So he's potentially going to take another step up and push towards the top 10 or so key forwards in the game if he can keep that improvement from last year. Shannon Neal was solid without being outstanding for most of the year. His work in front of goal sometimes leaves a little bit to be desired, but still pretty solid year from him. Jay Polkinghorne, I doubt we'll see much of, depending on injuries and such. Moving into the general forwards. So these are your medium-sized forwards. Once again, a couple elite players on their Geelong list here. Tyson Stengel had a great season last year. Had plenty of it, kicked goals, did a lot of work up forward, even rotating through midfield at some points. Brian Myers probably slightly down on his previous couple years, but still a fantastic season from him again. Didn't quite get the goal assist numbers last year that he had previously, but that's where he's most dangerous. His ball use is outstanding, his field vision is outstanding, and he's a really hard matchup for whoever he goes on. He can get up the ground a bit, get you 20 touches, he can get you goal assists, he can score goals as well. There's not a lot he can't do. Sean Manor was really good last year. Outstanding season from him, no doubt about it. He could be someone that moves into either the midfield or moves up into that elite bracket, which allows you to give Myers more time in the midfield or Stengel more time in the midfield because you've got that real depth and strength up forward. Brad Close also had a really good year. Jack Martin obviously has come across from Carlton. Barely played last year, barely played the last couple of years. It'll be interesting to see how he fits into this team. At his best, from a couple of years back, he's certainly good enough to be competing for a spot in this side. I don't think he starts in their team, depending how pre-season goes, of course. But he's someone that could work his way into this team and really benefit the team and himself. So look for him as a potential smoky to come into this team and really change the outcomes. Ted Closey, barely saw him last year, won't probably see a heap of him. Oliver Wiltshire and Caton Matafo Forbes, both unlikely to get games this year, I would imagine. Moving into the midfield, they've got quite a bit of depth here as well. Dangerfield, obviously, you know what you're getting from him. He's probably past his peak. You're not going to see that 2017 to 2020 form ever again from him. But if he can do similar numbers to what he did last year, that'll be pretty beneficial for Geelong and allow some of these younger guys to come in and take up a bit more of the mantle and really benefit the Geelong club. Jack Bowes. I've been really struggling with names today. Don't know why, but it is the case. Anyway, he was really good last year as well. He ranked 57th midfielder. Ollie Dempsey, I think you'll see quite a bit from him this year, running on the wing as well as through the midfield. He had a really outstanding year last year, there's no doubt about it. So we'll look for that to, I guess, follow in the trajectory it's going. He's potentially going to have a really good season. Obviously was the NAB Rising Star winner last year. Probably wouldn't have won it if a couple of the other players in Harley Reid and Sam Darcy didn't go down through suspension. But really good season from him. Bailey Smith joins them from the Bulldogs. Obviously didn't play last year. His best is good enough to be in any team's midfield. So the free kick that they've got from getting him into this team is huge. From all accounts, he's just going to be given the keys to the midfield just to run right and do what he wants, which will be huge for him. It'll be interesting to see how he goes at a new club. Maybe fell out of favour a little bit at the Bulldogs. Obviously didn't play last year due to injury, but it will be a fascinating watch to see how he goes, because his best is outstanding. We haven't seen a heap of his best, though, throughout his career yet, due to quite a few injuries and whatnot. But he is someone to certainly watch through this pre-season and into the early season for the Cats, and see how that plays out for him. Tom Atkins was really good season last year. Same for Tanner Bruin. They were both really good. Two players that could step up a little bit more as well throughout this year. Jai Clark, I think we'll see an improvement from him this year. Cam Guthrie, if he can stay on the park, it'll be huge for Geelong. Obviously, he spent basically all of last year injured. I think he did his hammy or his quad or something in the first 10 seconds of a pre-season game last year. And we didn't see a whole heap of him through the season. So if he gets his body right and fit, he's someone that will come back into this team and really help them out. Mitch Nevitt as well. I doubt we'll see too much of the three players down the bottom there that haven't played. Moving into the ruck, we have kind of spoken about this position. Mark Blixhavs potentially going back. Sam DeConing coming in potentially, because I just don't know if Reece Stanley or Toby Conway a number one ruckman in my opinion right now. I just don't see how either of them are, and that's probably why they are looking at alternative plans through DeConing. Obviously his brother can do it at Carlton, so they're trying to do the same here maybe. But yeah, I just see Stanley Conway more as that backup ruck, maybe second ruck sometimes, but yeah, injury cover. So I think that's the way it goes. They do have quite a lot of ruckmen on their list when you chuck in Pike, Edwards and Moyler. So potentially quite a lot of depth that they're building for the future. But it'll be interesting to see how they play that come 2025 season starting, and exactly what positions certain people play. One of the more fascinating reads, I guess, that we'll see. As you can see, this best 22 that I did was a few weeks back, and I do have Sam DeConing in the back line, so maybe I'll change that around before the season. I'll watch the practice games and see how they line up and what they play them as, but this is how I had it a couple of weeks ago. Humphreys, DeConing and Guthrie in the back line, full back line. Tom Stewart, Jack Henry, Max Holmes. Obviously Stewart and Holmes both rotating through midfield. Ollie Dempsey, Tom Atkins and Tanner Bruin is your centre line. Myers, Cameron, Close through that half-forward line. Stengel, Ollie Henry and Sean Manor, full forward line. Then your followers, Blixars I've got in the ruck, and Dangerfield and Bowles. Interchange, Kolajasny, Duncan, Bailey Smith, Cam Guthrie. So Smith and Guthrie will, and actually all of them will get plenty of game time. Emergencies here, most likely to play, I think, is Jack Martin, possibly, but they will all get games. Shannon Neal up forward, Reece Stanley, Toby Conway, Mark O'Connor, and Jai Clark. That's how I see their best 22-ish, although, having said that, there's a good chance that by the time the season starts, we'll be rotating Sam DeConing into that ruck. If he dominates or even does a solid job in those preseason games as ruckman, he'll be going into this spot as ruckman, whereas Mark Blixarves will be swinging potentially back to the back line. We'll see how that plays out, though, throughout the next few 4 or 5 weeks, however many it is, till they start their season. We'll now look at their season and how it starts. Just a quick snapshot of their 2025 schedule. They start the season in opening round against the Brisbane Lions at the Gabba in what will be an absolute cracking game. Obviously, it's a prelim final rematch from last year. Not at the same ground. Last year it was at the MCG. This one's at the Gabba. Bit of pressure. Not the easiest first game of the season. They did go up there last year and beat Brisbane in the wet, I believe. I think that's how I remember the game anyway. So that was pretty early season, so I would imagine they would have won it. So big game to start the season 2025 for both clubs. Obviously, Brisbane trying to defend their title. Start it with a home game against Geelong. Should be a cracker. Buys for Geelong in rounds 3 and 16. Gather round is a tough one for them. They're going to be playing Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval, so that will be a tough game for them. And then the teams they play twice are Brisbane, Essendon, GWS, Port Adelaide, Richmond and St Kilda. When we break that down, obviously you've got Brisbane, who won the premiership last year. Then you got Port Adelaide, who finished second on the ladder, home and away, and their qualifying final opponents. So that's another tough matchup. GWS finished in the top 8 and made it through. Finished 4th, actually, didn't they? They went out in straight sets, though. They're basically playing 3 top 4 teams from last year. I know Brisbane technically finished 5th on the ladder in the home and away season, but ended up winning the premiership. And then there are the other ones. Essendon and St Kilda are both middle table teams from last season who St Kilda finished really strong. Essendon started strong and then tapered off. So both teams wanting to push towards finals for 2025. It'll be interesting to see how both of them play out. And then they've got the easy one, I guess you'd say, based on paper, is Richmond. They've got them twice. So that is beneficial. Any team that gets Richmond twice in 2025 is certainly going to be quite happy with that. They might not publicly say it, but it's going to be certainly a good thing for most teams that do get Richmond twice. That's Geelong Cats. Where do we see them finishing? Based on how they played last year, it's hard to see that they've got worse. They've added a couple important factors. Bailey Smith, the main one. A lot of their players still getting better. There's a couple that are getting a little bit older, but I think that's just allowing these younger guys to come through and develop even more so. So they're a team that it's hard to see them getting worse. So on that basis, I think they are a team that should be pushing top 4. Hosting a home qualifying final, in all honesty, is a reasonable shout for them, I think. The league is very close, very tight. There's not much difference between a lot of teams, but I think these guys are one of the teams that stand out as one of the better options to be going all the way in 2025. So jump in the comments. Let me know what you think about Geelong 2025. Are they as good as I'm saying? Are they not? Have I made any blunders with the best 22? Who's your call for them taking over this Geelong team? How will Bailey Smith go? Will Jack Martin play? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll be back. The podcast is tomorrow. The next day, Hawthorn. No, not Hawthorn. Gold Coast on Thursday coming out. And then on Friday will be GWS. So go check it all out. Plenty of content all over the channel. Go check it all out. Plenty of socials as well. At All Aussie Rules everywhere. Thanks for tuning in. And I'll catch you on the next one.